Kristen from Advantage Advocacy with another video blog. Just a heads up, this is going to be a really long one. It's the preparation for the anticipation of the winter holiday season. Yeah, you prepare to anticipate the holidays. It's different. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about preparing your child for the unexpected. Now, you're like, of course we're going to do that. Yes, I get it. But a lot of that has to do with how you're going to collaborate with the external supports for your child. So that could be at school. That could be the extracurricular activities, whether it's Taekwondo, Sparks, your craft that they're doing, like one of those craft clubs. We need to be able to communicate more effectively and collaborate with their instructors in those realms, because with the winter holiday seasons, what happens is that there are a lot of changes to routines and structures, which would impact your child feeling comfortable with their routine and structure that they're used to having gone and sorted in September. Okay, so the first thing you can do as a parental advocate is to communicate with the instructors. Say, listen, I understand that, with the holiday season, there may be some changes to our normal routine and structure for my child in this program, but I just want to let you know, my child has different strengths and different weaknesses, and one of their areas of need is support with change and structure. And you're very open. Be like, one of the things I can anticipate is the sensory overload. Whether it's, we're already dealing with at home and seeing a real struggle with changing with all these winter clothes and adding more demands in terms of having to get ready and remembering what they need to do. Another thing is that there's a lot more smells now, with, the holiday season comes spice lattes and, evergreen scent and, more that glue smell in classrooms, and all these things. That can be a trigger. So you're just very open with what you anticipate being a potential pitfall for your child. And then what you're going to do is you're going to collaborate to discuss how these pitfalls can be avoided, because it's all can be avoided with the proper supports and resources. So here's a couple tips. One of the things you could do is discuss with your counterpart. You know what? Little Johnny might be really overwhelmed in the classroom or in the program when there's going to be a lot of change or a lot of noise. What we could do is just let little Johnny know that there's a little room over here he can go to whenever he feels overwhelmed, and just go and regroup and then come back. Another thing you could do is talk about is there going to be a song? Are they going to learn a new dance or something? And if there is, if you can get a copy of that song, so you could do it at home and you could talk about how that song is going to be learned in this class and prepare your child. So they already have a leg up in terms of the anticipation of what's going to change. So they're already aware. Another thing you could do is you could also pre-screen any movies that's going to be. Now, I know that Hollywood or whoever has decided this movie is rated G, but that doesn't necessarily mean that movie is appropriate for your child. It could trigger some emotions or a reaction. So, if you're aware of any movie that's going to be shown, view it at home really quick, or if you think it'd help, view it with them, so they know what's going on too. So if they have any questions, they can ask them before the movie starts, at home and with you, and you can discuss it, so that helps them feel more included. Also, is you can talk about the instructor. Listen, my child would really appreciate having a special job or a special task that relates to the craft but doesn't place as much demand as their peers, because they're feeling overwhelmed and they feel this anxious. We know they could do it, but with the anxiety or the sensory overload, they may not be successful. So we want to avoid any potential negative impact on confidence. So, it's all through communicating, and you're the best expert on your child for this holiday season. And it's not enough for everybody to say, things will change. We need to be able to accommodate for that. No, things will change, but that's not a reason we accept. Things will change. We collaborate and communicate to ensure that your child is successful. So another important element to consider is food. So food is a very stimulus-enriched element, and it can also have a huge impact from a sensory perspective. When there's potlucks and you bring it to an activity or you bring it to a friend's house, It's important to communicate with those if you're going to a friend's house as much as important as you communicate with school or another extracurricular, is that the impact of food. And it goes beyond just understanding, oh, well, we don't use nuts and we make sure that there's no peanuts or dairy. But food is also a trigger from a sensory perspective, whether it's the texture, the color, the smell, whether it, for me, I don't like when my food touches each other on a plate. There's all these elements from a sensory perspective that can really impede a successful experience from something that just often people take for granted. Another element of food that we need to consider too is that when a child's feeling anxious or they're feeling a sensory overload or they're like the stimulation is just too much, maybe they're not going to eat. So that's important from an advocacy perspective. If you're trying to support a family who has an exceptional child with different abilities, considering food is just as important as having a quiet space the child can go to. Because having the quiet space that a child can go to regroup and feel centered when they're overwhelmed and overstimulated is as equally as important as understanding that food, though you're trying to be inclusive, may not be exactly what you would think it would look like. So collaborating with the parents in that respect is equally as important. So and the final thing what I think you could do would be very successful is feedback. So feedback being, talk about it. With this, we noticed you made these changes or these modifications, and we know little Johnny, little Sally was feeling very successful. But here's what they could benefit. Or, maybe next time we could try this because it was really successful, we could add to that. So feedback is important because there's going to be other holiday seasons and there's going to be other changes in seasons and there's going to be all sorts of things happening. And if we can communicate, then everybody's on board and then your child feels more successful. And they don't have that same feeling of anxiety and being overwhelmed because everybody has their back and they're trying very hard to accommodate and make your child feel successful and confident in their environment, because inclusion is key. And here's a little pro tip, something that happened to me in grade 1. I had this fabulous teacher, Mrs. Anderson, and it was during the holiday season, and my class was watching Frosty the Snowman, and I couldn't sit through movies. It's very difficult for me with my ADHD when I was a child. So, Mrs. Anderson, the genius that she was in teaching, she said, Kristen, you can watch the movie with your friends, your classmates, or you can come help me and we can help set up for the next activity. Well, I jumped on the opportunity to go work with Miss Anderson, not only because she was an amazing teacher, but because I knew that it would be really difficult for me to be in that movie environment, sitting quietly. So Mrs. Anderson gave me these red cups, and then she said to me, okay, Kristen, your job is to take these stickers and put one on each of the red cups for your classmates, because when they come back, when we have our little snacks, you have the juice and they'll have their special cup that you made for them. So I spent the movie doing various little tasks for Miss Anderson, putting stickers on cups, and I felt very included. And that made me feel very special. And I remembered it all these years later. So it can be as simple as giving the child 2 different options and letting them choose what they would feel would be best for them at that moment. Okay, so that's all for this video blog. I hope you guys have a great day, morning, or evening. All the best. Bye. Crazy. You're not recording, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, why are you doing that? You're so...
Of course, I'm not stupid. Okay, let's breathe.